Our transfer talk over on our website. There has, of course, been a lot of discussion about a forward that Liverpool have been interested in. It seems to have moved from Alexander Isak now to Ekitike. Oh, crikey, O'Reilly. Ekitike to make
Just
the
call
move.
him Hugo.
No, Ekitike is not hard to say, but then it gets in my head.
Well,
no, but it's fine. Ekitike, it looks like, actually, according to reports, this is very close to happening. Apparently, Liverpool want this done by the weekend. Archie Rhind-Tutt joins us. Frank's still with us as well. Archie, is he a good fit for Liverpool? I suppose it's the obvious question to start with.
I think he'd be a good fit for any of the top teams in Europe right now. He is a baller, quite simply. The form that he showed at Eintracht Frankfurt last season, even if I think there's still room for him to go to. And then the following season when PSG tried to sell him, he wasn't up for that. And it took him until winter to then actually move to Frankfurt. And since he's been there, he's been built up again. And yeah, has gone from strength to strength. They wouldn't have reached the Champions League for this coming season without him. And yeah, he's a real joy to watch.
Frank, obviously, you saw him at PSG. You kind of saw the bad Ekitike.
Yeah, that was very complicated for him, I would say. But you know, Archie just mentioned the fact that the three superstars were there, so it was hard for him to have a little room. But Ekitike maybe clicked. Maybe something happened playing in Bundesliga for a big club like Eintracht Frankfurt. I've been in the stadium, the pressure is big, the atmosphere is great. So maybe something happened to him and he became somebody else. I had doubts about him when I saw him playing for Paris Saint-Germain. He was doubtful in front of the goal, asking too much about, or wondering too much what he had to do, no instinct, no flair. And I saw him last season. That was a different player. So is it because he handled the pressure in a better way or because he was belonging to a club with less pressure? That we don't know. If he goes to Liverpool, that's going to be a question mark. How can he handle the pressure?
And how does he adapt his game? That's
is this all happening because Liverpool don't think they can get Isak
yes, exactly.
out of Newcastle?
Yeah.
Or certainly they can get him, but they're not prepared to go to that figure, which Newcastle are probably holding out for a king's ransom, and that is understandable. And so Ekitike is sort of their sort of backup, not to disparage him at all, because he is a very good player and certainly been playing very well in Germany. They need somebody that can come in and be a little bit different to what they have and be more clinical, obviously, than Darwin Núñez. They're looking for somebody who was going to do the job that Darwin Núñez was going to do for them and has, you know, generally failed to have any sort of consistency. If it's the Eintracht Frankfurt Ekitike coming in, you know, playing back in front of and around somebody like Florian Wirtz, and then you have Gakpo and Salah and the wider areas and this sort of free-flowing Liverpool side, yeah, he's got every chance, absolutely every chance. But it's not easy. You know, when Darwin Núñez came in, he came off one of his best seasons in his young career at Benfica, scoring goals for fun, bashing defenders around, leading the line, looking $1 million, and he wasn't able to step up to that next level. That is always going to be the question. It was the question for Alexander Isak when he came in from Real Sociedad to Newcastle, and in all fairness, it took him a little bit of time to find his feet, and then he did, and he has been sensational. And that is always the question here with players coming in. But on the face of it, it looks like if it goes through, another good bit of business for Liverpool, particularly if they can't get Isak, because they need to fill that slot. Youngest player, talented, scoring goals, got a bit of everything to his game. And at the moment, there is no, to my mind, and certainly off the top of my head, there is no club in Europe who seem to have their ducks in a row better early on than Liverpool.
Yeah, and it's another Bundesliga player coming across along with Wirtz and Frimpong, Archie.
Yeah, exactly. Albeit, I think that just looking at that Liverpool team for next season, my eyes just widen at the possibilities there, because to have Frimpong as an option in terms of the speed that he provides you out wide, I mean, seeing him being positioned there at right back does not do justice for how much he gets forward. to have someone with the speed of thought that Florian Wirtz has as well, let alone all the tricks up his sleeve. And then Hugo Ekitike as well, who is also capable of an instinctual, inspirational moment. And it means that from a Liverpool point of view, if teams sit back against them, which they will do, that is the only option, I think, for some other teams in the division when you have that kind of quality coming up against you, even if there is a greater strength and depth in the Premier League than ever before. Still, teams are going to try and defend against Liverpool. But with those players that they brought in from the Bundesliga, it's going to be a very difficult job. Hugo Ekitike as well, I just want to credit another part of his game. Sure, he's good on the ball, but off the ball as well. There are so many occasions where I just remember him picking a defender's pocket out of nowhere. And it's that kind of work rate, I think, that he'll be valued for by Arne Slot, amongst other things, because he's proven that he's not just a striker whose brain is only on when his team has the ball. He's also thinking about, okay, how can I influence the game? How am I reading the game when it's not in our hands? And I think that from the modern striker, that's crucial.
If he does sign, what's the over-under and how many times you're going to...
Ekitike, it's fine. I just need to get... No, it's fine.
Like,
I can get... It's just a
I reckon about
a little bit of practice.
Season.
No, it's not a Tronoglu, is it? I can manage that.
Well, you haven't managed it. You've been struggling with that for about 5 years. I reckon the over-under's about 20.
No.
And you
Ekitike, I can do that. That one's all right. That's okay.
All right, we'll see.
We will, of course, be discussing a lot more about Liverpool and their title challenge over the next few weeks as we count down to start the Premier League season. Of course, as is tradition, the curtain raiser for that season, the Community Shield, is live on ESPN Plus from Wembley. Crystal Palace taking on Liverpool. Please sure to join us August the 10th, 9:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus. We'll say goodbye to Frank for the moment. He'll be back with us on Extra Time. Oh, there's Jan's smiling. What's up with Jan's eyes? Anyway, let's just talk about a couple of Americans who are making their move to the Bundesliga as Archie Rhind-Tutt still with us. Malik Tillman, they're spending a lot of money on him, 35 million to get into Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, it'll be a very different Bayer Leverkusen to the one that we left last season, Archie.
Completely down, because no Florian Wirtz, no Jonathan Tah, no Jeremy Frimpong, but most crucially, no Xabi Alonso. Mm-hmm. And that creates a completely different dynamic. Erik ten Hag coming in with a point to prove. And for Malik Tillman as well, he was previously at Bayern Munich. He grew up in Germany. He knows what it's like to be in a Bundesliga environment, but has struggled to show real consistency before at Rangers, but then had a better time of it at PSV under Peter Bosz. And I wouldn't expect him to necessarily play all the time or as much in the number 10 role. So I don't think he needs to worry too much about having to replicate what Florian Wirtz did, because also, spoiler, he won't be able to do that. But I think Bayer Leverkusen might see him more in a number 8 kind of role, pushing on from midfield, something of a box-to-box player, because that plays to his strengths. It's just... question now, he's still in his early 20s. Can he fulfill the kind of expectations that he has of himself, having been a young player at Bayern Munich? That, I think, does certain things to your head in terms of what you're expecting of your career. And now is an excellent time for him to prove himself. I think that in some ways, sure, there are larger expectations at Leverkusen as caused by the Xabi Alonso times, but in many ways, people aren't expecting Malik Tillman to be as good as Florian Wirtz. And so in that sense, he may still have some room to play with.
Meanwhile, Archie, just a couple of years ago, we were talking about who's going to be the most important player for the US at the World Cup in 2026. Will it be Christian Pulisic or will it be Gio Reyna? However, they have both very much trended in different directions, haven't they, since those sort of discussions. Are you surprised we're at this stage where Gio Reyna's looking for a club?
If there's not a consistency of fitness, then how can you get a consistency in your form? And I think that's the case for Gio Reyna. Honestly, watching the amount of games in stadiums I do, you follow some stories closer, and obviously having to watch Gio Reyna go through what he's gone through was honestly heartbreaking. It was when he was making a comeback from injury and I saw him going off down the tunnel crying away at Stuttgart a few years ago, that honestly, my heart still bleeds for the guy, and I just hope that he's able to get back playing regularly so that he can find some sort of rhythm. And when I say playing regularly, I mean playing 90 minutes. Because at Dortmund as well, if you're an attacking player, like he is, and you've had to play under 5 different coaches, full-time coaches, whilst he's been at the club, and you've had the injury record that Gio Reyna's had, how do you find your rhythm within that? He needs to go to a place and maybe do something similar actually to what Mario Götze did, who went to PSV Eindhoven a few years ago and was a central character. And Gio Reyna needs to get that main character vibe back, particularly ahead of the World Cup. And to be honest, having seen him suffer through injuries as much as he did, I really hope he does that.
So maybe Eredivisie, something like that, take a step back to take a step forward.
He pitched up at Nottingham Forest and okay, look, it might not have been the right fit for him, the way they play and all that sort of stuff, but he made pretty much no impact. And he had barely any game time to do so, but that also is an eye-opener when the manager does not feel that he can put you in. And what's worrying here, and Archie talked about the injuries, is when you're picking up so many injuries and you're still so young.
Yeah.
That's the sort of mindset, that's the sort of worry internally in your brain that at 22 years old, he's had 3 or 4 years, it seems to me, of these constant niggling injuries. Nothing to my, off the top of me, it's not like he's had an ACL or something like that, not off the top of my head anyway. A lot of it has been niggling, it's been groins, it's been hamstrings and so forth. And that's normally the thing that starts to hurt a player when he's in his late 20s, early 30s. And you start, as your body changes, and you've played all these games, and you've played all these seasons, and normally then you start fighting the muscular injuries. He's doing it, and he's had to do it so early in his career. And that, for me, is just a big concern. I would be really, really concerned about this young man getting himself back on track. I just, at this moment in time, his career just, it's not Dortmund. It's not going to be there. He needs to get somewhere, that both of you have touched on this, where he's going to somehow be able to keep himself fit and he's going to play. It doesn't have to be a team at the top of a league. It just has to be a decent standard, and he's going to play and he's going to find himself again. And if he can stay fit in that period, wherever it is, then he's going to give himself a chance. It's a bit like Pulisic to an extent, right? AC Milan won the league, I don't know where it was, 3 years ago, whatever it was. But they've not been close to winning the league recently, right? They've not really been competing per se. They were, I think, 7th or 8th at one point in Serie A last year. They were in the Champions League, but they got comfortably knocked out. But he found his feet there at Milan, in all fairness to him. He was playing every week. He was one of the better players. The crowd liked him, and he responded to that, even though they were not challenging Napoli and Inter at the top. They were nowhere near strong enough to win the Serie A title, certainly in the last couple of years. But he was better than Rafael Leao. He was more consistent than some of these other players. And somewhere along the line, Gio Reyna needs to find a club that's going to give him that. And if he doesn't find this soon at 22 years of age, his career is going to continue to go in the wrong direction.
Archie, we'll say thank you very much. Countdown to the Bundesliga. Have you got a holiday before it all kicks off, Archie? You're travelling around the country for us?
Holiday, mate. Pre-season now.
Yes.
Holidays are over.
Exactly.
Club World Cup.
Just hours and hours of pronunciations with Derek. Getting it right, getting ready to go for the kick-off of the new campaign.
See, it's not just players that the Club World Cup stuffs everything up for.
Yeah.
Journalists as well,
exactly.
and everybody is like...
It's actually got the Club World Cup from that.